G'day everybody, Nick Dingle here again for a 8th part of our Super Mario Bros. Tutorial in Construct 2. So, if you've happened to miss any of these videos, please note that any of the parts are down in the description of the video. So please go check it out and get yourselves caught up, because in the last video, we finished up with the item block. He took a little while to get done, but we finally smashed him out. Now, this video, we're going to be focusing on breakable blocks. So we're talking about the ones with the little checkered brick pattern, and the ones that if you're small, you headbutt and they just bounce. If you're big, you headbutt them and they break. Sometimes they have items inside of them, okay? And that's going to be the hard part for us. And from my understanding, breakable blocks can only have coins. Now, if I'm wrong, please correct me down below. But in the original, I'm pretty sure they only ever had coins in them. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a very modified version of the item block to do all the things that we want to do. So first of all, I want you to right click on the item block and we're going to clone him so we get all of the different behaviors and aspects that this guy had. I'm going to right click to rename him first to Breakable Block, drag him in, and we're going to start editing a few properties about him before we go to any behaviors or coding for that matter. So first of all, we need to get rid of the item instance variable, because of my understanding there is only coins. We can't have different types of items. I mean, I'm sure I could leave that in there, and I'm sure that we can have either mushrooms or coins pop out of these breakable blocks, but I want to stick to it as original as we possibly can. So that done, we only now need to edit the images of the box. So if you double click on this bad boy, we are going to edit this entire animation. Leave the collision model as it is. We're going to first delete the inactive. Off you go. And now we're going to replace this animation. So I'm going to right click down the bottom, import frames from a sprite strip. Let's go back to the blocks folder. There's my breakable block. One by one, tick to get rid of all the existing frames. And there we go. There's our breakable block. And the beauty of this is, since we duplicated the item block, we've got the collision model we used to have. We've got both the hit or the image points, including the hitbox one, and we don't have to do any additional work there. That's the beauty of all of this. We're now going to create another animation, and we're going to call this broken. N. Okay. We are then going to add in the image, which is inside the blocks folder as well. So import from a sprite strip, that one there. 1, tick, go OK, go OK. All right. Now what we need to do here is we have to add in a whole heap of image points. So in the image points dialog, we're going to add 4 to be specific, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to rename them accordingly. So what these are going to be where the particles of the broken block appear and then fly off. Okay. So for instance, okay, this one's going to be the top left piece that breaks off and flies off to the top left, okay? His X and Y is going to be 4 and 4. It's easy for me to just type them up here rather than try and locate that little pixel there. Next one's top right. His point is going to be 12 and 4, so he's right there in the top right. Next one, bottom left, and you see where this is going. The X is going to be 4, 12 for the Y, so it's sitting there. Bottom right, 12 by 12. All right. So those image points right there, we're going to use to spawn 4 little particles, and the particles are going to fly off and do what they usually do in a Mario game. So that's actually done. We're going to close this, but before we can do any coding, we actually need 2 more sprites. Okay. So let's right click on the blocks, insert a new object, select a sprite, and the first one, this is going to be like what we did last time, breakable block, hitbox. Okay, the reason we have to make a new one and can't reuse the item block one, well, I probably could have cloned it by the way, but we can't use the actual item block hitbox, because as soon as you create a container, you're not allowed to use that object in any other containers. So we have to create a whole separate one. I probably could have duplicated it, but it's not going to take us that long. 14 by 2 for the image size, people. Let's fill it in with a dumb color. This one a little bit different to the other one. Let's go purple. Apologies to those people who really support purple colors. Down here, initial visibility to invisible. And finally, let's create that container. And we'll go with breakable block. All right. Save. We've got most of it set up. The last thing we have to set up is the breakable block particle that flies off when this bad boy breaks. So right click on blocks, insert a new object, sprite it is. He's called Breakable Block particle. Now, we're not going to use particle effects. I'm sorry, everybody. Bit disappointing. I was actually going to try, but because of the way particles work in Construct, it's easier for just to make a couple of sprites and do a little bit of physics on them. So, right-click down here, import your frames from a sprite strip. There's our breakable block particle. Open them up. Make sure it's one by one. Tick the box. Okay. We're doing that lots recently. And the only thing we have to do to this image is resize the collision box. Okay. So I'm going to click on this collision point, shift click on that collision point, and increase the Y value. Same for these two. Click, shift click, reduce. Click, shift click, increase. Click, click, shift click, reduce. Okay. And that's going to help the collision. So when they all spawn, they're not going to hit each other and go flying randomly. Okay? That's done. Close him off. Now it's time to add the behavior to him. The collision particle, or the particle I should say. Behaviors. Add. And we're going to go physics. And the only thing we have to change about the physics here is we have to change the prevent rotation to yes. The rest of that is perfectly fine. Okay? And now we're ready to add the code, and this is going to be the tedious part, I'm sorry. So we're going to go to blocks, in the event sheet, we're going to minimize all this stuff, and we're going to create a brand new group. So add a group, call it Breakable Block, add them in, okay? And we're going to do the same thing we did to start with the item block. We're going to do this bad boy, okay? We're going to set his position to the hitbox. This is the hitbox object to the item block's hitbox, and back up the starting Y. So click here, press S to get your thing up, and we're going to go System, Start of Layout. Okay, so when the game kicks into gear, you're going to go the Breakable Block Hitbox, the purple one, set position to another object. You're going to set his position to a breakable block, image point, hitbox. And then finally, we're going to set the breakable block. Okay, set value of the starting Y to self.y. Okay, that's all we need to do to start with, and you're going to see a lot of repeat code from what we had up in the item block, but we're not going to repeat it just yet. So, let's add another sub-event to this breakable block group. This is going to be when Mario hits the hitbox. So Mario, collision with, and you're going to go hitbox, make sure it's the purple one. Okay, the breakable block hitbox. So when Mario hits this bad boy, there's a couple of things we're going to do, and there's a lot of different conditions. So let's say, to start with, if there's any items in that block, we need to start spitting them out. Okay, when we run out of items, then we need to check if Mario is small or big. If he's a small Mario, all this breakable block is going to do is bounce up and down, just like we did with the item block. However, if that breakable block has run out of items and we're big Mario, it's going to explode. Okay? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to handle the item creation, the bounce up and down and the item creation. So I want you to click on 14. I want you to click S for a sub-event. We're going to go to the breakable block to check if he has any items left. So compare instance variable, item count is greater than 0. So if the breakable block has any more items. Now remembering breakable blocks can only have coins in this case. Alright, before I add any actions, I'm going to go back up to the item block, and I'm going to steal a whole heap of code. All this, from there to there. I want you to click on the top one, shift click on the bottom one, and I'm going to go a copy, click here, a paste. Alright, now you'll notice that all this is referring to the item block. Yes, I'm going to have to go back and change them all to breakable block. So double click on this one, back, double click on breakable, forward. Make sure it's still the same action when you do that, by the way. So I'm going to repeat this all the way down where it says item block, item block, item block, item block, and including these three. So I'm going to pause the video for a sec. I'm going to come back, and I'm finished. Okay, I'll show you the final result. Alright, that was a little bit more annoying than I'd thought, because every time I edited the sign behaviors, I had to go through and pick the right action. So please make sure it all says breakable block all the way down here, and it's all the correct actions on the right hand side. Now I didn't edit this bottom one because I want to show you quickly what we're going to do. I'm going to double click on this bad boy, and we're going to edit the parameters. Obviously it's not going to say item block, it's going to say breakable block. However, for parameter 0, we can only create coins. And if you remember, 0 was mushroom, 1 was coins. I'm just going to type in 1 from now on. Okay, because there's not much point. We haven't got an item variable anymore, so we can't send it that. So just send it 1 to create a coin. Done. That should produce some items. So just doing that, if we save, go back to the level, make sure this guy's in a decent spot. Hitting him should produce us an item. Whoopsie doodle, I have not fixed up the sign behavior. Alright, let's go back and let's fix that up. Go away, you crazy block. Okay, click on him. Let's make sure all these sign behaviors set up exactly the way it should be. So, first of all, active on start, no. Just copy the settings from here, by the way. Vertical, it's going to be 0.3 for the period. And -7 for the magnitude. Okay, there's your settings. I'm sorry about that, everyone. I forgot that it resets all the settings when you clone an object. Save and start. I would actually like to see them change that behavior, to be honest. Not working because I'm an idiot and forgot to set some items. 5. Let's go 5. Dun, 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 dun. Alright, and the second thing I forgot is to put this guy on the correct layer. Far out. I'm forgetting a few things in this video. Sorry about that. Quick test. That's better. Alright, and he disables himself after we've run out of items. Okie dokie. Now comes the interesting part. We need to get to the point where when we've run out of items, we need to check if Mario's big or small. Alright, so first of all, we're going to add a sub-event to number 14 there. Okay, we're going to check if Mario, boolean, is big, and I'm going to invert that. So press I on the condition. So Mario is not big. The second condition I'm going to check is if the item count is equal to 0. Now the reason I didn't put an else in here, okay, I did that in the past. I did put if item count is greater than 0 else. The reason is because if we hit the block and it's the last item in the block, we'd have to hit it again to break it. And it actually should break on the last item that we take out of it. Okay, so adding an else would mean we'd have to headbutt it again. Okay, forgetting the else and just adding it as in a condition will check both of them for us, which is a beautiful way to do things. So Mario's not big, and so press C for another condition. We're going to check if the breakable block compare instance variable item count is equal to 0. Okay, so if Mario is small and there's no items left, let's whoop. The block is literally just going to bounce up in the air without spawning an item. So this is really easy for us. We just need that code. And we're going to copy it the same way we did above. Highlight from the top to the bottom, copy, paste. Okay, so if Mario is small and it's run out of items, which we can test by just typing in 0, it should just bounce up and down. Although it's not bouncing up and down anymore. It's because we've got the subtract. Take that out. Whoopsie doodle. Try again. I'm making... Okay, so what did I do? I took out the subtract 1 in event 16. So you need to make sure you do the same thing. Now, what we need to do for the next one is we need to check if Mario is big and there's no items left. So for this one, I'm going to copy these two events in a second. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the side and I'm going to press B for a blank sub-event. Whoopsie doodle, far out. I'm pressing the wrong things. 14, blank. And I'm going to copy these two conditions here. Paste them in that. And change that to is big. So if Mario is big and the item count is 0, this is when Mario breaks the block. Okay? It took us this long to get to just this stage. Okay? And this is going to be a lot of actions. And they're not hard actions. They're pretty tedious actions, to be completely honest. First thing we're going to do is make the breakable block invisible. So set the visibility to invisible. Okay? We're going to set his animation to broken. Now, I know you're not going to be able to see it. And it seems a bit silly to do this. Originally, I was going to use the broken animation, but now I'm just using it for its image points. Okay, so there's not tons of image points all over the original animation. It's just on the broken animation. Okay, that's how I'm justifying it anyway. What we then do, we've made it invisible, we've set to the broken animation, so we've got the 4, remember, we have the 4 image points, top left, right, bottom left, right, that we're going to use to spawn the particles. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is just simply do 4 spawns. So breakable block is going to spawn a particle. Okay, layer, make sure it's set to blocks. Image point, the first one is obviously going to be the top left. Okay, and then we'd spawn 3 more particles, but we have to do a couple of different things for each particle in there. But let's do the spawning first. So copy, paste, 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 and change the image point in each one of these actions. So we've got the top right, we'll have the bottom left, and then we'll have the bottom right. Okay, there are 4 particles there that have been created. The last thing that we're going to do is we're going to destroy the breakable block. Okay, now let's test this out. We've got our 4 particles being created if Mario's big and there's no items left. So let's go to the ideal situation in our level. Let's click Mario, let's make him big. Okay, let's make sure there's no items in the breakable block and run him and try it out. So there you go, it sort of works, but we haven't gotten to the point where the particles fly off and they spread out and they're not facing the right way as well. So there's a couple of things we have to fix there, but I was always intending for that to be the case. So first of all, you need to know which ones we have to flip, and it's the ones on the left that we have to flip around or mirror. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go particle, mirror, I can't spell, and I'm going to drag it up under this one here. So when the left one gets spawned, he gets mirrored. Copy that, and I'm going to put it under the bottom left one. So he becomes mirrored. Okay. Now, the final thing we have to do is add a bit of force under these particles so they fly up and outwards. Okay. And this is just going to be this is why we added the physics behavior. We're just going to add some, so let's say for this guy, the top left guy, he's going to fly up and to the left. Okay. So what that is, that's a negative upwards and that's a negative left-hand direction. So add an action, go to your particle, okay, let's set the physics velocity, so set velocity, okay, to make him go left, we're going to go minus 60, to make him go up, minus 250, go done, and put that under the top left spawn. So this is these two are only going to affect the top left particle that flies off. I'm going to copy this because we need it 3 more times. So copy, paste, put it under the top right. But the difference between the top left and the top right is the top right flies off to the right. So I'm just going to make the X component a positive value. Alright. Okay, the bottom left guy, he's the same as the top, but his values are slightly adjusted. So he's not matching exactly what the top guy's doing. He's going to fly a little bit slower to the left and a little bit lower to the top. And the same thing for the right guy. We're just going to swap the negative value. Okay, so these might seem a bit weird and they might seem like strange numbers, but the numbers I just played with until they felt slightly right. If you've got better values, try them out. And there you go. And this is what I love doing. Adding in multiple of them. I probably should set them to a grid, but... And they look good. I reckon they look fantastic, to be honest. They're a little bit off. They're not 100%. But they're so close to the final result that I think that they're worthy of being in a Mario game. So that's it for this video, everybody. The breakable block is finished, and we're going to move on to something grander in the next video. I'll tell you what it is next week. But thank you very much for watching. I'd love to hear from you. Subscribes, likes, they're great. I'd love to hear from them as well. But anyway, thank you very much for watching, everybody. I'll see you in the next video. Ta-ta for now.